People are happy?
I bring happiness.
He once worked with legends, turning unknown directors into icons and helping countless stars rise to fame. But behind the spotlight, Arnold Schwarzenegger kept a secret, a list he never made public. 6 names. 6 betrayals that forever changed the way he saw Hollywood. 1 was his idol. 1 was the man who made him famous. And 1 dared to call him greedy. These names weren't random enemies. They were people who once walked beside him through glory, only to leave him stranded under the lights. What happened between them will leave you stunned. Especially the second name, James Cameron, the genius who turned on his own creation. James Cameron, the man who created a legend, then was hated by it. The first name on Arnold's list was James Cameron, the man who turned him from a bodybuilder with a heavy accent into the greatest Terminator the world had ever seen. But that same man, the one who created the legend, would later become someone Arnold could barely stand to share a room with. During the filming of True Lies, 1994, Cameron was at the height of his power, and Arnold was a global superstar. Yet behind the camera, the set became a battlefield of egos and perfectionism. Cameron would shoot until exhaustion, shouting one more time, even after the scene had already been perfect 15 takes earlier. Sweat streamed down Arnold's face as he muttered between takes. He's lost his mind. Arnold believed in discipline. Do it right. Do it clean. Do it once. Cameron believed in absolute control. Everything must be perfect, down to a single breath. Those two philosophies clashed like molten steel. One morning, in the middle of an action sequence, Arnold threw down his prop jacket, walked off set, and said coldly to the producer, "If he wants a machine, buy one." Silence. Cameron said nothing, didn't chase after him. He simply rewrote the scene and kept shooting as if nothing had happened. But something broke that day, not just patience, but trust. The film was a massive success. They still smiled together on the red carpet. But anyone looking closely could see their eyes no longer met the same way. Arnold never visited Cameron's set again. And Cameron, in an interview, once said he preferred to work with actors who submit to the director's vision. Everyone in Hollywood knew who he meant. When fans asked about True Lies 2, Cameron smiled and said the idea was still alive. Arnold quietly replied, "That depends on how long he wants to shoot a single scene." People laughed. He didn't. 2 of Hollywood's strongest men, 2 indomitable icons, ultimately fell apart because they were too alike and neither would bow. Sylvester Stallone, the rival who never surrendered. If James Cameron was the man who created the legend, then Sylvester Stallone was the one who forced that legend to fight for his throne. Throughout the 1,980 seconds, Hollywood witnessed one of the fiercest rivalries in cinema history between 2 men who embodied the same myth: muscle, power, and monumental ego. Arnold and Stallone weren't just action stars. They were rival kings, sharing the same crown. Rambo versus Commando. Rocky versus Predator. On screen, they shone. Off screen, they schemed to outshine each other by any means necessary. In 1985, at an award ceremony in Beverly Hills, when Stallone won the People's Choice Award, Arnold clapped but didn't smile. Witnesses later said that when the cameras stopped rolling, he whispered, "He won't keep that throne for long." From then on, the Cold War began. Arnold tried to sabotage scripts Stallone wanted. Stallone, in turn, mocked Arnold in interviews as a guy who just shoots guns but can't act. The tension peaked when Stallone released Rambo 1 and Arnold countered with Predator. Both topped the box office, But what truly mattered to them was who the world saw as the real man. The rivalry hit its climax in 1992, when Arnold heard Stallone was considering a comedy script called Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. He pretended to be extremely interested in the role, driven by pride. Stallone grabbed it first, and the film became a disaster. Years later, Stallone admitted, "Arnold tricked me, and I fell for it." Arnold just smiled. He didn't apologize. He didn't need to. In that silent war, he had won. But when both men looked back years later, the victory didn't shine as bright. In the 2000s, when they appeared together at a Planet Hollywood event, they shook hands and exchanged weary smiles. "We're old now," Arnold said. "We were rivals, now we're old friends." Yet in their eyes remained a faint glimmer of caution, pride, and the memory of a time when neither would stand behind the other. The Arnold-Stallone war had no true winner. It only left one lesson behind: in Hollywood, the throne isn't big enough for two men with egos that large. Lou Ferrigno, the muscles that challenge the legend. If Stallone was the rival on screen, Lou Ferrigno was the challenger from the very beginning on the bodybuilding stage. Before becoming the Terminator, Arnold was the undisputed king of muscles of the 1,970 seconds, while Lou was the towering young man from Brooklyn with a single dream: to defeat Arnold Schwarzenegger. Their rivalry was immortalized in the 1977 documentary Pumping Iron, where the world first glimpsed the dark side of those gleaming smiles. On stage, they were two bronze statues of perfection. But backstage, it was psychological warfare. Arnold played a subtle game, speaking to Lou in a calm, almost fatherly tone, as if mentoring rather than competing. Lou, young and impressionable, admired him and was manipulated by him. One trainer recalled, Arnold didn't just lift weights. He lifted his opponent's mind only to press it down again. When Lou stepped onto the stage, Arnold sat in the audience, smiling a smile that carried both encouragement and challenge. Once again, Arnold won, and Lou was shattered. But from that moment, resentment began to grow. Lou felt used, turned into the clown of a show where Arnold was the star. After the contest, Arnold retired to conquer Hollywood, while Lou stayed behind in the gym, haunted by one name: Schwarzenegger. When Lou was cast as the Incredible Hulk in 1978, the press immediately branded him Arnold's old rival. Every interview became a comparison. Once, a reporter asked, "Do you think you're stronger than Arnold?" Lou replied, half joking, half serious, "I don't know. But at least I don't have to play a robot to get attention." Arnold heard it. He just smiled, but those who knew him recognized that smile as a declaration of war. For years, they avoided mentioning each other, until the day Arnold became governor of California. Lou appeared at a bodybuilding event, and when Arnold stepped onto the stage, Lou stood and clapped coldly. No handshake. No words. Just the look of two giants who once shared a dream, now separated by memory and pride. Lou later said, "I don't hate Arnold. I just hate how small I feel when I stand next to him." Perhaps that's why Arnold kept Lou's name on the list, not out of hatred, but because Lou reflected his own ego, where pride, rivalry, and loneliness fused into something cold and metallic. Bruce Willis, the deal that turned friendship into feud. If Lou Ferrigno was the rival in the gym, Bruce Willis was the man who made Arnold taste defeat in real life, not on set, but in business, where both believed they were the smarter one. In the 1,990 seconds, Arnold Bruce Willis, and Sylvester Stallone were Hollywood's most powerful trio. Together, they decided to turn fame into empire by opening Planet Hollywood, a restaurant chain where fans could dine among props from Terminator, Die Hard, and Rambo. At first, it was a symbol of friendship and dominance, three stars laughing together, promising, "This will be where legends meet legends." But behind the flashbulbs, cracks began to form. Arnold wanted to expand, to make Planet Hollywood a global icon. Stallone agreed. Bruce didn't stay. He cared about numbers, profits, and the survival of each location. An executive recalled, Arnold talked about legacy. Bruce talked about money. They weren't speaking the same language. When profits fell, Bruce pulled out and publicly criticized Arnold's business strategy. He said, "I don't want my name tied to an unrealistic dream." Arnold stayed silent. But behind the scenes, he took it as betrayal. To him, Bruce wasn't just a partner, he had been a friend. They went to events together, attended parties, called each other brother. But for Arnold, loyalty was sacred. Once you withdraw, you turn your back. When asked about the fallout in a 2002 interview, Arnold replied, "Bruce sees everything through numbers. I see it through vision. Maybe we were both wrong." It sounded diplomatic, but those close to him knew it meant he'll never forget. From then on, they avoided each other. No handshakes. No reunions. When Stallone later brought Bruce back for The Expendables, Arnold appeared reluctantly smiling for the cameras, but never meeting Bruce's eyes. A mutual friend revealed, Arnold wasn't angry about the money. He was angry about losing trust. The story of two action titans who once ruled the box office didn't end with an explosion. It ended in cold silence. Planet Hollywood eventually faded into memory. But for Arnold, it became the symbol of something he would never forgive: betrayal disguised as friendship. George Clooney, the man who turned a legend into a joke. If Bruce Willis disappointed Arnold in business, George Clooney wounded him in something far deeper: pride. Not through betrayal, but through a joke, something seemingly harmless, yet sharp enough to pierce a legend's ego. In 1997, Batman and Robin was released. Arnold played Mr. Freeze, the main villain, and George Clooney was Warner Bros. New Batman. The film was meant to be a major success. Instead, it collapsed. Batman and Robin became one of the most infamous cinematic disasters of the 1,990 seconds. Critics mocked it. Audiences laughed at it. And Clooney, the film's leading man, began shifting the blame. In interviews afterward, Clooney often said, half-jokingly, "We killed Batman and probably Mr. Freeze too." The line spread across Hollywood. For Clooney, it was self-deprecating humor. For Arnold, who had entered the project with all the prestige of the Terminator, it was a dagger to the heart of his pride. He wasn't just being mocked for a failed role. He was being turned into a punchline by the very co-star he had once supported. Arnold once confided to a friend, "I don't care about failure. I just hate being used as someone else's excuse." Clooney kept joking about the film for years, even calling it the biggest stain of my career, unknowingly dragging Arnold back into the ridicule each time. On a 2003 talk show, when asked if he'd ever work with Arnold again, Clooney laughed. "Only if he promises not to freeze the whole movie this time." The audience roared. But those who knew Arnold said he watched that clip in silence. No reaction. No words. For Arnold, respect mattered more than talent. And in his eyes, Clooney had crossed that line not with malice, but with casual condescension hidden beneath humor. When they met again at an event in Beverly Hills, Clooney extended his hand, smiling, "Good to see you again, Mr. Freeze." Arnold smiled politely and replied, "Still as cold as last time." A gentle line, yet enough to reveal the ice between them. An ice that never melted after that film. George Clooney thought he was making a joke, but to Arnold, it was humiliation wrapped in charm. And in the world of men once called legends, nothing cuts deeper than becoming the punchline. Tom Arnold, the friend who spoke too much? If George Clooney made Arnold a joke to the public, Tom Arnold hurt him through what Arnold valued most: friendship. On his secret list, Tom's name was the most painful, not because of betrayal, but because silence had been broken between two men who once called each other brothers. Arnold first met Tom on the set of True Lies, 1994. Back then, Tom was a mid-tier comedian, while Arnold was the biggest action star on earth. But amid the explosions and chaos, they found an unlikely bond. Tom brought laughter, Arnold brought discipline and loyalty. They went everywhere together: dinners, gym sessions, public events, calling each other brother. The press dubbed them Hollywood's dynamic duo. But, as with most friendships in Hollywood, it didn't last. After filming ended, Tom began appearing on talk shows, sharing behind-the-scenes stories, sometimes true, sometimes exaggerated for laughs. At first, Arnold brushed it off. He knew comedy was Tom's livelihood. Then, it went too far. In the 2000s, as Arnold's personal life became tabloid fuel affairs, divorce, political scandals, Tom resurfaced on television, joking about the crazy days with Arnie. A close friend said, Arnold saw one of Tom's interviews on TV. He turned it off halfway through and didn't say a word. For Arnold, the worst thing wasn't being mocked. It was being mocked by the man who once sat beside him when no one else did. When rumors of True Lies 2 emerged years later, Tom publicly said he was ready to return if Arnold opens the door. But Arnold never replied. No invitation. No text. No reunion, only silence where friendship used to be. In a 2015 interview, Tom said, "I still love Arnold. I think he's a great guy. Maybe I just talk too much." Arnold didn't respond directly. In a later Q&A, he simply said, "You can forgive an enemy. But with friends, one time is enough to stay silent forever." Tom Arnold didn't betray with actions, he betrayed with words. And for someone like Arnold, who believed loyalty must come with silence, that was an unforgivable sin. Their friendship ended without arguments, without tears, only a long silence, and a list where Tom Arnold remained, as a reminder that sometimes the ones who hurt us most aren't enemies, but those who once called us brother. 6 names, 6 stories, 6 wounds that even time could not erase. Behind the iron muscles and the famous smile of a legend, Arnold Schwarzenegger is still human with pride, with scars, and with memories he never wants to revisit. From James Cameron and Sylvester Stallone to George Clooney and Tom Arnold, each left a mark, a crack in the steel statue that bore his name. And perhaps it's those cracks that made the legend more real, more human. So, which name surprised you the most? Can you guess who else once made it onto Arnold's most hated list? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and the bell icon, so you won't miss the next secret Hollywood has to reveal.